Why I always make mistakes. Alex often stared at his reflection, a deep frown etched on his face. He understood English perfectly, devouring complex articles and intricate novels without a single hitch. Yet, a crippling fear paralyzed him whenever he attempted to utter a simple sentence. Why I always make mistakes, he'd lament, the words echoing in his silent mind, never escaping his lips. This recurring frustration was a constant companion. He grasped every nuance during conversations, catching jokes and subtle ironies that many learners missed entirely. Still, when it came to formulating his own thoughts, the words dissolved into a jumbled mess, leaving him feeling utterly incompetent and deeply ashamed of his inability to articulate. I understand English but I can't speak well, he mumbled to himself one evening, the familiar lament a heavy burden. It felt like possessing a vast, beautiful library within his mind, yet lacking the key to unlock its treasures and share them with the world. This paradox plagued his waking hours. He often wondered if he was somehow fundamentally flawed. Friends conversed fluently, making minor errors that seemed trivial compared to his complete vocal paralysis. Their confidence was bewildering. Why was his brain so adept at consumption, yet utterly useless at production? The answer remained elusive, shrouded in self-doubt. His reading habits were prodigious, almost obsessive. Why you must read English, he knew intellectually, was crucial for vocabulary expansion and grammar mastery. He spent hours immersed in classic literature, current news, and scientific journals, absorbing countless new expressions and sentence structures, believing this was the ultimate path. Every new word learned felt like a victory, every complex sentence deciphered a small triumph. He diligently kept notebooks filled with idioms and phrasal verbs, convinced that sheer input would eventually trigger output. He was building an impressive internal dictionary, yet the speaking barrier remained stubbornly intact. There were moments of genuine despair. He encountered articles titled "Why You Should Not Learn English," which sometimes resonated with his feelings of hopelessness. Was the effort truly worth it if the ultimate goal of communication remained perpetually out of reach? He questioned his motivation. Perhaps the problem wasn't a lack of effort, but a misdirected one. He read endlessly, but rarely practiced speaking. His silent mastery of vocabulary didn't translate into fluid conversations. The idea that perhaps he shouldn't learn English if his only goal was passive consumption started to echo in his thoughts. Alex realized he was learning English for the wrong reasons, not for genuine connection, but perhaps for an abstract idea of perfection or to avoid making mistakes. This revelation was a turning point. He needed to shift his perspective from flawless accuracy to effective communication, even if it meant stumbling occasionally. He decided to embrace a new philosophy. Instead of fearing errors, he would view them as invaluable learning opportunities. This mental shift was difficult, challenging years of ingrained perfectionism. But it was a necessary first step towards unlocking his vocal potential, breaking free from the self-imposed prison. His previous method of simply memorizing word lists now seemed inefficient. He pondered how to learn words effectively, searching for strategies beyond rote memorization. He understood context was king, but applying it actively felt like a challenge, a new skill to cultivate deliberately. He began to experiment. Instead of isolated words, he focused on learning phrases and collocations. He created personalized flashcards with example sentences. He discovered the power of spaced repetition, revisiting words just as he was about to forget them, reinforcing them in his long-term memory. Learning words in context through stories and real-life scenarios proved far more effective than dry definitions. He associated new vocabulary with vivid imagery or personal experiences, making them stick. This active engagement was a stark contrast to his previous passive reading days. He realized that true vocabulary acquisition wasn't just about knowing a word's meaning, but understanding its nuances, its common partners, and its appropriate usage in different situations. This deeper understanding was crucial for moving beyond mere recognition to active recall. Alex also started noticing words in their natural habitat, movie dialogues, song lyrics, and everyday conversations he overheard. This exposure reinforced his learning and provided authentic examples of how words truly lived in the spoken language, enhancing his comprehension naturally. He used apps that provided interactive exercises, pushing him to recall words actively rather than passively recognize them. This active retrieval practice strengthened his neural pathways, making words more accessible when he needed them for speaking spontaneously. This new approach to vocabulary dramatically boosted his confidence. He wasn't just accumulating words, he was internalizing them, preparing them for deployment in actual conversations. The gap between recognition and production began to narrow, slowly but surely, day by day. He no longer felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of English vocabulary. Instead, he saw each new word as a tool, carefully chosen and sharpened for future use. This strategic learning was far more empowering than his previous haphazard method of consumption, yielding real progress. Now that he had a better grip on vocabulary, Alex tackled the broader question: how to learn English effectively for speaking. He knew reading wasn't enough, he needed active production. This realization was both liberating and terrifying, demanding a new kind of courage from within. He started small, recording his own voice as he described his day. Listening back was often cringe-inducing, highlighting his awkward pauses and mispronunciations. Yet, it was a crucial step, allowing him to identify specific areas for improvement, like a personal coach guiding his progress. He sought out opportunities to speak, no matter how brief. Even ordering coffee in English or asking for directions became valuable practice sessions. Every interaction, no matter how small, chipped away at his deep-seated speaking anxiety, slowly building momentum and confidence. Consistency emerged as the absolute cornerstone. Daily exposure, even for short periods, proved far more beneficial than sporadic, long study sessions. He integrated English into his daily routine, turning passive activities into active learning moments, making progress feel natural. He discovered the power of learn English through stories, not just for reading, but for retelling. He would read a short story and then try to summarize it aloud in his own words, forcing himself to construct sentences spontaneously and coherently, building fluency. This retelling exercise was particularly effective. It bypassed the need for original thought generation in English, allowing him to focus purely on language production using pre-existing content. It was like a scaffold, supporting his nascent speaking skills as they grew stronger, day by day. He also found podcasts and audiobooks incredibly useful, not just for listening comprehension, but for shadowing. He would repeat phrases and sentences immediately after the speaker, mimicking their intonation and rhythm. This improved his pronunciation naturally and effortlessly. The shift from passive input to active output was challenging but incredibly rewarding. He was no longer a silent observer but an active participant in his own learning journey, taking deliberate steps towards fluency, inch by painstaking inch, with unwavering determination. The biggest hurdle remained: how to speak with people. The thought alone sent shivers down his spine. But he knew this was the ultimate test, the bridge between understanding and true communication. He had to cross it, no matter how daunting the challenge seemed. He started with online language exchange partners. The anonymity of the internet provided a safe space to make mistakes without immediate judgment. His initial conversations were halting, filled with awkward silences, but he persevered, determined to break through. He joined local English-speaking clubs, forcing himself to engage in group discussions. The supportive environment and shared struggles of other learners made it less intimidating. He realized everyone made mistakes, and that was perfectly normal, even essential for growth. How other people talk in English became a fascination. He observed native speakers, not just their words, but their body language, their pauses, their natural flow. He noticed how they used fillers, how they structured their thoughts, and how they handled interruptions. He paid close attention to different accents and regionalisms, broadening his understanding of the diverse ways English was spoken. This observation helped him to adapt his listening skills and become more comfortable with various speech patterns, increasing his comprehension. He realized that casual conversation often differed significantly from the formal English he'd learned from textbooks. Slang, idioms, and colloquialisms were rampant. He started incorporating some of these natural expressions into his own vocabulary, making his speech sound more authentic. Watching interviews and talk shows also provided invaluable insights. He analyzed how interviewees answered questions spontaneously, how hosts managed discussions, and how people naturally expressed agreement or disagreement. It was a masterclass in real-world English communication. He recorded himself speaking with others, with their permission, of course. Later, he would listen back, not to criticize, but to identify patterns, common errors, and areas where he could improve his flow or clarity. This self-analysis was incredibly powerful for rapid improvement. He stopped translating in his head. Instead, he forced himself to think directly in English, even if his initial thoughts were simple. This mental shift was crucial for achieving fluency, reducing the cognitive load of constant translation back and forth. The fear of making mistakes gradually diminished as he gained more experience. He understood that mistakes were not failures, but stepping stones. Each error highlighted an area for improvement, leading him closer to his goal of articulate and confident speech. Alex's journey continued, now focusing on how to improve your English consistently. He knew improvement wasn't a destination but an ongoing process, a continuous refinement of skills. He embraced the long haul with newfound optimism and determination, eager to progress. He sought out constructive feedback, actively asking his language partners to correct his errors. This direct feedback was invaluable, pinpointing specific grammatical issues or vocabulary misuses that he might have otherwise overlooked, accelerating his learning curve. He kept a mistake diary, noting down recurring errors and actively working on correcting them. This systematic approach helped him to target his weaknesses rather than just randomly hoping for improvement. It was a focused attack on his linguistic flaws, yielding tangible results. Reading widely remained essential, but now he read with a new purpose, not just for comprehension, but to notice how native speakers constructed complex sentences, how they used conjunctions, and how they varied their vocabulary, absorbing patterns actively. Writing became another crucial tool for improvement. He started journaling in English, articulating his thoughts and feelings without the pressure of immediate conversation. This allowed him to practice sentence construction and vocabulary usage in a low-stakes environment. He actively engaged with English media beyond just listening. He watched movies with English subtitles, then without, challenging his comprehension. He tried to predict plot points, and then discuss them aloud, even if only to himself, actively processing the language. He joined online forums related to his hobbies, where he could practice writing and reading English in a context that genuinely interested him. This made the learning process enjoyable and highly motivating, blurring the line between study and leisure effectively. Alex realized that motivation was cyclical. Some days were easier than others. On challenging days, he reminded himself of his progress and the initial frustration he felt, reaffirming his reasons for continuing this demanding yet rewarding journey. He celebrated small victories, a particularly smooth conversation, understanding a complex joke, or correctly using a newly learned idiom. These positive reinforcements fueled his determination and kept him moving forward, one small step at a time, towards greater fluency. He understood that true fluency wasn't about sounding like a native, but about communicating effectively and confidently. His goal shifted from perfect pronunciation to clear articulation, from flawless grammar to understandable expression, prioritizing connection over perfection. He became an advocate for making mistakes, sharing his journey with others who felt similar frustrations. He encouraged them to speak, even if it meant stumbling, because every stumble was a step forward, a moment of real learning, building resilience and skill. His confidence soared. He no longer hid his English struggles, instead, he embraced them as part of his unique learning story. He realized his initial fears were vastly exaggerated, obstacles he himself had erected, not real barriers to progress. The transformation was profound. Alex, once paralyzed by the fear of error, now spoke with a newfound freedom, not perfectly, but powerfully. He had truly learned how to learn, how to speak, and how to improve, one courageous mistake at a time. He had cracked the code. The secret wasn't endless reading or memorization, but courageous, consistent, and conscious practice, especially speaking. He no longer asked, "Why I always make mistakes," but "What can I learn from this mistake today?" A powerful shift. This positive mindset completely reshaped his language learning experience. He saw every conversation as an adventure, every new word as a discovery, and every mistake as a valuable lesson, propelling him towards greater linguistic mastery and self-assurance. Alex's journey demonstrated that understanding English is merely the foundation, Active participation is the true key to unlocking fluency. It requires bravery to speak imperfectly and resilience to keep learning from every single interaction, no matter how small. He had found his voice. No longer silenced by fear, he was finally able to express his thoughts, share his ideas, and connect with people from around the world, proving that persistence and courage truly pay off in the end, achieving his dream. His transformation was complete. The shy, hesitant learner had evolved into a confident communicator, ready to embrace new challenges. His story was a testament to the power of perseverance and the courage to make mistakes, inspiring countless others. He now confidently shared his journey, inspiring others to overcome their fears. He emphasized that the biggest barrier is often internal, not external. English learning is a marathon, not a sprint, filled with valuable lessons for life, not just language. The initial despair had given way to immense joy and satisfaction. Alex had not only learned English, but he had also learned profound lessons about resilience, self-acceptance, and the true meaning of communication, which transcended mere words. His story serves as a beacon of hope for anyone struggling. It shows that the path to fluency is paved with imperfect attempts and continuous effort, not a magically acquired perfect accent or flawless grammar, but genuine connection. Alex's journey concluded with a profound sense of accomplishment and renewed purpose. He was not perfect, but he was fluent, capable, and most importantly, no longer afraid of expressing himself. His voice, once silent, now resonated clearly and confidently, a testament to his unwavering dedication.